Game reviews are a great way of learning more about new games, knowing if it is worth spending on, or gaining insight into current gaming trends. However, doing game reviews isn't as good as reading them. Reviewing a game can take away from the enjoyment of playing it. Why? Let's get into that. Before I continue, I just want to let you guys know that this is actually from a blog post I made called Game Reviews Are No Fun. If you're interested in reading my thoughts instead of hearing it from my very monotonous voice, you can go ahead and click on the link down in the description below. Anyway, let's continue. I've been playing video games for almost 20 years and only started trying to be critical of them a few years ago. This is not to say that I am unique, only that I realize that sometimes there's more to video games than finding out whether I enjoy them or not. In trying to find more creative ways to express my thoughts, I looked everywhere for references and inspiration. I found a few content creators such as Rasputin, The Actman, and Luke Stephens that fit the bill, even though I disagree with some of their takes. So now I am trying to bridge one of my practical skills with one of my passions, writing about video games. The first few attempts were fun and fulfilling. I got to share video games that I liked, thoroughly express what I learned or enjoyed about them, and rack my brain to be more clever or creative with my words. However, it wasn't until recently that I found myself getting more and more frustrated about everything involving video gaming and writing. If I loved writing and gaming, why am I frustrated with playing a game and writing about it? As it turns out, getting into the mindset of playing video games with the aim or knowledge of reviewing them afterwards makes them less enjoyable. What is a game review? A game review is often thought to be a critical evaluation of a video game, most preferably by a professional or a person with reputable history in video games. Most of the time, game reviews are designed to give readers an idea of whether or not a particular game is worth their time and money. I could go on with what makes a good game review and what makes a bad one, but I think that's a topic for another day. Right now, I just want to share what I feel while writing one. At its core, it is excruciatingly painful and takes out the essence of what it means to play a video game. What is the essence of playing a video game? I think video games are meant to be enjoyed. Not all video games are enjoyable for you, but they were made with someone in mind enjoying them. One way or another, the game developer or developers meant the game to be enjoyed by someone, even if that someone is themselves. Playing a game with the thought of reviewing it in mind just removes the purpose of what a video game is about. All because you are not there to truly enjoy it, or at the very least, to first try and do so. Another common frustration I encounter when reviewing a game is finding out that it's not as good or enjoyable as I expected it to be. Things that are interesting at first glance are not always enjoyable once experienced. A few minutes or an hour of gameplay is usually all I need to know whether the game is or is not for me. But going back to the essence of video games, I know that I just cannot say outright that a game is objectively bad because I found it unenjoyable. There are aspects of it that someone, somewhere out there, will enjoy. It would be very disingenuous of me to say that a game is objectively bad because I did not enjoy it. To do so is to play God and pretend that I know everything about video games, as well as to know what the video game is supposed to be. There are also video games that are a mix of the good, the bad, and the surprising. Take some of these for example. What if the pacing slugs in the first hour or few hours of gameplay and then picks up later on? That's what Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Witcher 3 were for me. What if the tedious aspects of the game are actually part of its charm? That's what Dragon's Dogma and Kingdom Come Deliverance felt like for me. What if there are parts that you really liked and parts that you really hated? That's what Days Gone and League of Legends were for me. What if the mechanics are poorly taught, but it was fun once you spent hours figuring it out? That's what Assassin's Creed Unity and FTL Faster Than Light were for me. And finally, what if a game is something enjoyed by many, but just isn't for you. That is what Apex Legends and Grand Theft Auto 5 were for me. Sometimes there are notable things on both sides of the spectrum, and you just don't know how to feel about the game as a whole. Even worse, we don't know which notable things are more or less important than the others. This struggle is a mental blockade I constantly have to get over. I believe that it is important to remember that different people value different things. What sometimes makes writing a game review difficult is weighing down the enjoyable and the unenjoyable, not necessarily the good or the bad. Rather, I think it's better if you just write everything down without actually comparing if one makes up for the other or brings down the other. If anything, I think it's better to only place the objectively horrendous aspects of a game. Also, be extra thorough when explaining them or make sure they are obvious. This might be hard to imagine because objective is ironically subjectively placed upon different things. So let's go over some things I found in video games that I considered to be objectively horrendous. Number 1. The game breaks its setting, theme, and /or consistency senselessly. Second, the game has problems starting up or main menu game breaking bugs. And number 3, the game lies to you about its game mechanics. There are more game mechanics or characteristics that you could put in here, but for me, these are some of them. Still, reconciling these differences and being confident in having justified them is very difficult. I always have to convince myself that I've done enough to justify what I've listed down. Finally, game reviews sometimes kill curiosity. The cat. Yeah, I did that. But let's move on. Part of the enjoyment of playing a video game is fulfilling your curiosity. You wanted to play a video game because it had something that interested you. That something should be found and experienced by you. Just like having someone spoil the ending or plot twist of a book, movie, or TV show, game reviews remove you from this experience. Even worse, it removes what separates a video game from other forms of media: interactivity. Or at least some part of it. You finding out from others about something a video game has removes some of the interactions that you would have had if you played the video game going in blind. In some way, game reviews make the reader a less active character in the video game. That is something that I struggle to accept when making my reviews, because sometimes I find games that I really enjoyed and I wish someone else would enjoy them as much as I did. Does this mean you shouldn't read or write game reviews? No. Game reviews are an important source of information, especially with the current high prices and malicious marketing of some of the biggest and most anticipated games. I just really wanted to share that I sometimes hate making or reading game reviews. Aside from the reasons I stated before, some reviewers have strong biases or agendas that heavily taint their reviews, and at times their reviews just become hit pieces. I am mostly afraid of having my biases remove myself from giving an actual fair review of a game. I just also think that it's good to stick with a few good reviewers and have set standards or desires on what you're looking for from a review. More importantly, I think it's also best to keep in mind that most games are meant to be enjoyed by someone. It may not be you, but that someone's enjoyment is just as important as yours. Even if sometimes I believe video games are more than just fun, that they can be judged as good or bad, ultimately it really boils down to whether someone can enjoy playing them or not. So when writing a game review, try not to close out the door for others. And if you're just an avid game review reader, try to keep an open mind about video games and video game reviews that you read. One of the games that you're avoiding could just be the one for you.